Here is one thing I will never understand about DPS players. In essence, you have been given the power of a god. In a world where you can zip, fly, and hammer your way to victory, some people decide, no, what I really want to do is play that guy. Or this guy. But not only do I want to play that guy, I also want to play nothing but that guy. Now of course, to each their own and everyone has different tastes, but I just can't wrap my head around why somebody would want to one-trick boring characters like Soldier 76 and Widowmaker, while the role has access to all these amazing and unique heroes. God knows if I could swap to something more exciting every once in a while in the support category, I would very much appreciate that. With that said, being a support has not been all that easy for me ever since the release of Echo. Now don't get me wrong, holding your teammates' lives in your hands can be a very fulfilling experience, especially when you save them from the brink of death. And not to toot my own horn, but my Zenyatta gameplay is kind of legendary. I mean, my reputation has surpassed me far enough as to where Winston players rather toss themselves off the map than engaging in combat with me. Name one other Zenyatta besides Jonak that can say that. I also feel like there's something very satisfying about playing a role that was not explicitly designed with the purpose of getting eliminations doing that job better than their DPS. Winning a 2v1 as Ana is so much more gratifying than most other roles in the game, and as such, I put many hours into trying to get better with her. Though I know that if I describe it like that, a lot of you probably think about Moira and how annoying it is to 1v1 her. And while I cannot say that I'm experiencing the same amount of trouble that I often see described online, I can definitely see why, especially Genji players, might be very annoyed over the fact that she, well, exists. Did they add crossplay to Overwatch or something? How did this guy end up in the same lobby as me? Now I know how most of you DPS players out there feel about Moira, but rest assured knowing that I am the type of player that really enjoys to put himself in front of a good challenge. While I do indulge in the guilty pleasure that is tilting DPS players off the face of this planet by playing her, it also means that you probably won't be seeing me playing DPS in conventional fashion very often. The perceptive among you may have noticed that I did in fact go on a journey to try and obtain the grain via means of using my hammer in a previous episode. And following that video, I've spent many more hours dishing out dwarven justice, much to the dismay of my enemies. Whether you're a DPS one-trick, a fellow support player, or heck, even a tank, nobody is safe once I am in the driver's seat. And just like my Zenyatta gameplay, my hammer rampage has become well known enough in the casual community as to where even the most fearsome Doomfist players try their darndest to get away from me, and I can respect that. But all of these have merely been detours in the years-long road trip that is my Overwatch gameplay. So what happens if this support main over here finally gets fed up with making for a glorified target dummy and instead turns to the dark side to get a taste of the variety that is the DPS category? Well, now is as good a time to switch as ever, because not only does Echo make the life of support players much more difficult, he's also equally easy to pick up and do the same thing to others. For some reason, there is a meme circulating in the Overwatch community where people say she's really difficult to play, but now I'm here to prove them wrong. And our story today takes place on Havana. Now granted, while I am trying to make a point for how broken Echo actually is, I'm not an idiot. Well, not that kind of idiot anyway. As a Zenyatta one-trick, I know that I need every advantage I can get when moving to a new character, and as such, I spent my time at the window observing the opposition. Of course, the Reinhardt wasn't giving me a reason to be worried, but spotting the Widowmaker just in time definitely affected my decision for which exit I'm going to use. The round started and our team was determined to set the pace right from the get-go, collapsing on the enemy diva that tried to poke for some early ultimate charge. Well, that plan backfired and our frontline moved in together, avoiding sniper sightlines and taking a brawl in the shop. Once the enemies realized that they were fighting a losing battle, they made an attempt to retreat, and my horde of Alpha Chat teammates fanned out to take control of the space. The Reinhardt made a valiant effort to try and protect his team, but eventually his barrier would be eaten up and there was nowhere for him to run. Meanwhile, on the flank, I was getting ready to jump at the first opportunity to solidify our advantage with their diva becoming a prime target. The old bait and switch worked perfectly and I could melt her mech away like it was nobody's business. Landing a full stack of sticky bombs on a mini diva certainly put a smug grin on my face, but it would be an unexpected bionate that ends my flank all too early. Wasn't it for both of our mercies to swoop in and give us a chance for a rematch? Round 2, begin! As much as I was feeling confident about that 1v1, a part of me forgot that D.Va is a tank with the damage output of a DPS, and as such, I had to quickly run away to get some help. Just you wait until Mom hears about this. And naturally, Mom came to the rescue. Together with my Mercy, I would blow up her mech once again and put the final nail in the coffin by securing the first point. But little did I know that we hadn't yet shattered the enemy team's morale, because AC decided that the perfect time to use Dragon Blade was when you just lost the objective. Of course, I could have tried to help my team, but instead I thought, you know what? what? That's a great idea. So I decided to steal his identity and dash into whatever was left of the enemy team with reckless abandon. Unfortunately for me, Sigma was denying the last bit of damage I needed to get my Dragon Blade, and Ana put me out of commission by using a sleep dart. But just you wait until I wake up, because unfortunately for you, my ultimate lasts longer than your sleep dart. And with the last couple seconds remaining, I successfully obtained my Dragon Blade in time to obliterate her, turn back into my smug self for another elimination on their mercy, and just when the Roadhog thought he had me, I used my I win button to delete him as well. It is now that we are going to take a second and reflect upon the fact that there are people out there that unironically think this hero is not a problem. Amen. Having witnessed this entire team get slaughtered, the Junkrat tried very hard to not follow that same path and hide in the basement. I can only imagine what was going through his head when he saw me turn that corner, but little did he know that he was already dead. Now granted, I got a wee bit overzealous here in my attempt of keeping the enemies on the stagger train, ultimately getting punished for overextending. I appreciate my merciless attempt of bringing me back to the land of the living, but as it turns out, some walls are too thick to cheese your way through. While I was on the respawn train, a couple skirmishes were taking place between individual members of both of our teams, but the stalemate had largely already been broken by the time I arrived, and all I had to do was clean up the McCree and just wait a second for my Roadhog to serve me the Sigma on a silver platter. And that's all it took to scare that Junkrat into backing out. So far in this game, our team successfully made use of an early advantage to snowball their way into the last part of the map. This, however, would not be quite as easy of a cruise, because not only is AC's choice of hitscan hero gonna be more troublesome on this part of Havana, but the long sightlines also meant that we couldn't effectively avoid incoming damage while making our way to actually fight them. But once our Roadhog slithered his way into the front line to break their shield, he found an opening for us to push in and try to seal the deal. Don't forget, however, that the card still had a long way to go and the defender bias is real. I took to the skies to keep the high ground clear of any hit scan nuisance and to annoy the Zenyatta a bit with my long range poke, but eventually decided that, hey, he's playing Zenyatta, he's already suffering enough. My Mercy, however, disagreed. While I was feeling very smug about sidestepping the rock that hit my Bastion, I have to say that I was dumbfounded over the fact that I, as the flying character, was the one that ended up caught in Sigma's ultimate. And a few more ultimates were all it took to send my team and their hopes for victory back into our spawn. We used what little cover was available to try and avoid getting picked off while making an attempt to regroup, but the result of the next couple fights will be the same as what you just witnessed. Now look, at this point I have a choice to make. Am I gonna double down on being a DPS player and stubbornly stick with my hero of choice despite being shut down? Or am I going to use my big brain support game sense to switch to a character that can actually prove useful? I will never understand DPS players. The end. Hey, thanks for watching today's episode. Unfortunately, I couldn't manage to squeeze a 10-minute match out of this one, but I hope you still enjoyed it. Getting off the support role has actually been a very interesting experience, so you might see another tank video rather sooner than later. Anyway, if you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to let me know by dropping me a like on your way out, consider subscribing if you want to see more, and don't forget to ring that bell to not miss out on the next one. I hope you guys have a fantastic day, and until next time, peace.